I recovered pretty well, though. Did you see that?
Yeah, you did. Welcome, everybody, to RadPod and Chill. We have a very big night for you. Yes, Hi-Fi's got his new T-shirt. I've got, it's not really a new T-shirt, but it's the Mood shirt.
Definitely the mood.
We have a very special guest. He says he's on now. Do you see him? He says he's got black screen going on. So see if you can find him. If not, I'll tell him to dump out and come back.
I don't see him. Dump out and come back.
Dump. Right. Okay, so I'm going to tell him, dump out, come back.
This is a very special guest, too.
Yeah, you know what? Hold on a second. See if I can multitask. Dump out, come back. Okay. Yeah, so we have so much to talk about. We've got a whole big, I don't know. Jim, while I'm trying to communicate with our guest, why don't you take over?
I'd be glad to.
Yeah.
What a day.
Yeah.
So let's start with the big news. Donald fucking Trump got indicted.
Yeah.
This we cannot including the violation of the Espionage Act. He got indicted for espionage. Donald Trump, after 7 fucking years of no collusion, right? Of Hillary Clinton's emails, right? This is a good day. This is a day that should be celebrated. There are multiple things about this day.
We are going to talk about
before we do anything. Yes. Before we do anything, he's summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami. That's awesome. But the thing I really like about this, you have to use the Billy Joel voice for that last part right there. You see that? Ready? You see that? I am an innocent man. Yeah. Got to be the Billy Joel voice.
Wait, that was not Billy Joel, dude.
I know that's a fucked up Billy Joel. Jeff, what's up, man?
I'm here. Okay, good.
Our friend Jeff Charlotte is here. He was, of course, our guest a week or so ago. His new book, The Undertow, is brilliant, and we did a great interview with him. He also joined me at our Betty Dangerous Speakeasy, where everybody got to get to know Jeff and just how cool he is. But I figured what I'd like to do with Jeff here is I'd like to open with just a moment of silence for the dearly departed. I'm thinking maybe 4.5 seconds, maybe 4.75 seconds. So let's change. Okay. And then I'd like Jeff to offer.
There's two today, not just Pat.
What?
Jim Watt.
What?
James Watt from the Reagan administration.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. So
mine and hell.
The guy who canceled the
wow.
There's
the guy who canceled the Beach Boys. I remember that like it was yesterday.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna.
For people who don't know, James Watt was like one of the early fascists, the Secretary of the Interior, most famous for his declaration. What is it that we've got he listed off, he says, oh, we've got a cripple, a Jew, a woman, or a girl or something, a Negro, so we're good. And then, little known fact, nobody knows this, after he died today, thank God he's in hell, He died today. After that was a scandal when he gave that list. You know where he went to hide? At the headquarters of the family.
Oh, for
Press was
some,
circling around, so he went to their mansion called the Cedars in Arlington, and he bunked up there. While they said, "Well, James, that was very Christian of you. You did welcome the cripple, the Negro, and the Jew. That was so kind of you as a white man."
I do want to say when you said where he hid, for some reason I figured it was like Roger Stone's skirt, like he hid under Roger Stone's skirt or something.
I
Okay,
mean,
I
yeah.
want to just briefly tell my little anecdote about James Watt because he affected me greatly as a child. Every Independence Day, the Beach Boys would play on the mall in D.C. and it was one of the best times of my life. And then James fucking Watt comes by and replaces the Beach Boys with Wayne Newton.
ooh, Jim.
I mean,
are a right-wing band already. Like,
exactly. It's not like it's right. It's like how controversial the fucking Beach Boys, but no,
but
we have
Wayne
to have
Newton's like a lounge
Wayne
singer.
Newton.
He's a
was
lounge
the-
singer. He's like, kids, when you grow up, you can go to Vegas and
Exactly.
play the slots.
Anyway, so I am also unapologetically glad that James Watt is no longer with us.
Well, so I figured since this show is very serious, particularly on Thursday nights when we're very, very serious. If you haven't watched us on Thursdays, Jeff, we're not particularly serious and we're very sweary, a little bit belligerent, but we have a lot of fun.
You said
Yeah, that's I was hoping that you and Hi-Fi would I was hoping that you guys would imbibe.
We're getting lit, bro.
Today's a very special day. And as I told Jim earlier, I picked the wrong decade to quit smoking weed because if I still did, I would have a bowl right now. But all I want to say is I want to do like, now that I know there's been 2 tragic deaths, I'd like to do maybe like, I don't know, 4.8 seconds of silence. And then Jeff, I would like you in your very poetic way to eulogize Pat and James. Okay, so let's do it now.
Hold on a second. I find it ridiculous that we are having a moment of silence for Pat and James when we really should be having a moment of silence for those poor fucking souls in Kherson.
Well, yeah, you had to get all serious on us
Don't
right
get all
now.
serious.
We're gonna get there.
Oh, did I fuck that up? I fucked it up, didn't I?
Yes.
You know who we should have.
There's another American religious figure. I don't know if you guys knew him, Reverend Welton Gaddy, who was a great freedom fighter and has just died. And he was a guy who was at the forefront of the fight against the Christian right and a no bullshit man and struggled with hard issues in his last years, but kept going right to the very end. And we also lost him today. So one pastor, one whatever Watt was, and another a true Christian, and I mean that in the sense of Welton Gaddy, who understood his calling as loving kindness, but also accountability. He did not let the crooks off the hook.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
There was a 4th tragic death today. A Tatarian federal judge had an unfortunate window incident in Russia, and I just wanted to reiterate that when all of this is said and done, the biggest scandal is going to be the appalling safety record of the Russian window industry.
Wait, really? Another judge fell out a window today?
Another
a Russian federal judge went out a window.
Yeah.
God, so they are clumsy people, are they not? Yeah.
It's crazy. The windows, the clumsiness. It's just a remarkable tragedy.
So if we're gonna be serious and then jokey and then serious and jokey, that's cool. But I will say that today would have been my dad's 89th birthday. So if you guys can toast to my father, he would have absolutely loved a beer, a glass of wine, a little Prosit, and a jug
of water
to the people that we lost along the way. A lot of good people, but so I'm just going to go back to that 4 seconds. Let's just do like 3 seconds, okay? And now, Jeff, I would love for you just to say a little eulogy about Pat. I mean, that's what, you know, that's what we.
Dearly beloved, today we gather to recognize the loss of one of our finest, Marion, called Pat for his chubby cheeks. This is true, actually. That's why his dad liked to pat his cheeks. And let us not forget his father, Absalom Willis Robertson, crazy ass segregationist, founder of the National Prayer Breakfast. This is true. People think Pat just like came out of nowhere. No, Pat, not only did Pat inherit his calling, he strayed, as many great Christians do, sowed my oats, as he put it, sowed a lot of oats, as he actually put it. This is true. But when the oat sowing was done, he was called to Christ and his young wife, Dee Dee, pregnant with her second child. And he said, "See you later, Dee Dee. I got to go to Christ." And he left her alone late in her pregnancy for a month while he went to cavort with Christ. And he never looked back. And Dee Dee, of course, always followed. And I mean, I was just looking at it today. It's kind of amazing when you think about Pat Robertson. He really is structural in the sense in the 1960s, he was the first guy to really make Christian broadcasting profitable. And that's transformative. The 1970s, he creates Regent University, which has stocked every right-wing administration since. In the 1980s, he creates a Christian coalition. And you can say, I mean, think what you will of Pat, but he made the world we live in. And that world is less Patty without him.
Hold on. Pat Robertson is responsible for the world we live in?
Sort of.
I have to say, yeah. I mean, like, I actually do think there's probably no Reagan without Pat. And I think it's a point my friend Peter Manseau was making, and sort of like saying, look, if you go, he went and looked back at an early interview between Rush Limbaugh and Pat Robertson, and like, these are the guys who sowed the fields. As I said, Pat sowed a lot of fucking oats. And by making evangelical broadcasting profitable in 1961, that changed the game. His dad was doing the same shit, but his dad kept it quiet because back then there was really, we don't think of it, in the 40s and 50s, there was no money to be made. There was no power to be bought. There was no coax to be coaxed.
Yeah.
If you didn't have, by going on the air and talking in embarrassing and low class and tacky ways about Christ, and Pat changed that. And the interesting thing is, Pat went to Washington Lee University. Then he went to Yale. He was to the manner born. When it came time to get folksy, he had to get taught. He didn't know how to be folksy. I mean, he's from a long Southern line, right? So he brought actually a mentor, Harold Bredesen, who was also the guy who anointed Ronald Reagan and convinced the evangelical right that Reagan was their man, and was a paid organizer for the family. Harold Bredesen gave him folksiness lessons. This is the kind of quality education you can get on the Christian right. And it's why we got to get critical race theory out of the schools so that we have more time in the school day for folksy.
Yeah, well, so
I have a question. Was the 700 Club like his first big network, or was there? He
started the 700 Club, I think, in 1963. So
it was early, right?
But it took time to build. Like,
yeah, totally. But
because
that's what I remember.
Hey, let's stay away from politics. Pat is like, let's go.
I remember that from being a kid, and just, it was the thing that was on the weird channel always, right? Like, and that's genius marketing.
It wasn't the weird channel, like the shit we watched. Like I like Hill Street Blues. That was a good show when I was a kid. That was the weird channel.
Right. Totally know what you mean. But for me, it was a weird channel in between all the other stuff.
But I just need to say two things here. All right. First,
Yeah.
I always thought the 700 Club was like how many babies you had to kill to get in. And two is no wonder I hate everything if Pat Robertson is responsible for our world. That makes so much sense.
Okay,
So,
you're just gonna have to warn us, Hi-Fi, if you're gonna go dark.
R.I.P. Pat Robertson, 1432 to 2023. All right.
Okay, so seriously, the ghost of that famed sociopath Barry Goldwater is in the chat, and he did also want to offer a few words about Pat. He said, and I quote, "Mark my word, if and when these preachers get control of the Republican Party, and they're sure trying to, it's going to be a terrible damn problem. Frankly, these people frighten me. Politics and governing demand compromise, but these Christians believe they are acting in the name of God, so they can't and won't compromise. I know, I've tried to deal with them." So I just wanted to bring you
Well, look, that was like, so you invited me on, Heidi, because I said I got bumped from Joy Reid, because literally as I was about to go on, like the producer's like, "Oh, wait, what's this? Trump says he's indicted? Okay, later."
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But so the thing I wanted to argue was, like, Pat was one of the last of the Christian right warlords. Mike Pence is the next generation. He's like, he's like, you know, he's like Coke money plus Christian. But Trump is T3, Terminator 3. I mean, Trump ate up. There is no Christian right. Pence is trying to go back to the Christian right. The pastors don't matter anymore. That was the big move that Trump made, which was Christian nationalism, which is why if you tune into Fox tonight, or if you start going around to the right-wing things, they're talking in very close to violent speech about because what Trump did was he said, look, let's take the Christian without the piety. Because Pat was smarmy and pious and, oh, I don't know, they're talking about sex. And Trump's like, I fuck whoever I want. You're like, yeah, that's God, right? That's what happened. And I think, I mean, I'm very happy about the indictment. And I think we never go slow. Like, I'm not a go slow person. But the dial has been turned, right? Like, you know, I tuned into Fox to say, would it? Because there was a possibility they might say, well, now this puts DeSantis ahead, right? No, they're like, now is the time to rally round.
Wow, double down.
Yeah, I right before I came on, I quote tweeted Clay Higgins, who is a crazy ass insurrectionist congressperson, who tweeted like some crazy QAnon shit that was like military, like, you know, we're gonna get our troops and, you know, everybody hold the line and shit, right? This coming from a congressman, and it was very, very dark and violent sounding and QAnon sounding. And
yeah, I heard.
I was just like, what the fuck is this? And everybody's like,
Trump be arrested. We cannot let Trump be arrested. So, like, but wait, that reminds me, QAnon. I wanted to say something about Pat that I just learned today, actually.
Ooh,
that
is he cute?
He's sort of the great granddaddy of Q, in the sense that I had not paid much attention to his 1991 book, New World Order. Well, the very phrase was it, right? And New World Order. Now, keep in mind, this is after he runs and does well in 1988, right? So 1988 is this weird year. Pat Robertson and Jesse Jackson. And Pat Robertson does well, but he gives way to Bush. But so now he's like established as a statesman. And what does he use with that capital? He uses it to build a voting machine and to publish a book called New World Order, which draws through what he uses like an opt-out, like to get a text in between. Instead of quoting the protocols of the elders of Zion, he quotes a text that quotes the protocols. And it's the New World Order, which he publishes in 1991, is all about the Illuminati, the conspiracy theory, and very much about Jewish world order. And that's 1991. And I would argue, I just learned this today, so I have to dig into this, but there's a mainstreaming, because Pat was so establishment at that point. That is a mainstreaming of all those conspiracy theories are there that like sets up Rush to keep going. Now, you know, the 1990s during the Clinton years are the years when conspiracy
that is fascinating. That is fascinating.
So do you know the story of the Discordians and the John Birch Society? Have you ever heard that?
I don't know the Discordians. No.
So the Discordians were a bunch of fucking I don't know what you call them. Acid-headed hippies out in California.
They were pranksters. They were
Prankster.
like
Yeah, they were. It was part of the Merry Pranksters, kind of hippie, beatnik counterculture. Definitely, right?
Well, lefty folks or Jesus people, Jesus freaks.
Nah, they weren't really Jesus freaks because they
viewed...
viewed...
these are more the other side, the satanic side.
It got into the satanic stuff.
Towards Crowley and that kind of shit.
Yeah, it was their whole thing was like reality is malleable, and if you fuck with people's heads, you can change everything. So what they did is they actually started mind fucking Robert Welch of the John Birch Society. And I don't know if Welch believed this or not, or if he just went along with it to try to figure out but they more or less convinced him that the Illuminati was real by sending him these weird letters and like making things happen.
The Illuminati.
Like the Illuminati, it's not really the Illuminati.
No, but pretending to be that, like.
Yes, pretending to be that.
I would have loved to see one of those letters, dear Bob.
Well, they were published in like Playboy back in the day, and Robert Anton Wilson.
Robert Anton Wilson planted a whole bunch of Illuminati shit in penthouse letters and stuff like that, like in the '60s.
I didn't know this. I always thought he was just sort of like a pretentious guy. I'm like, I'm a Satanist, and this will get me laid or something. Like
there was probably some of that too.
Well, that was totally a thing, but of course, but no, they were quite sophisticated.
He really wasn't close. Like a good.
They were running psyops, but doing it at the level. They didn't have the internet, so they did it through media.
Where can one read more about this?
Oh, it's great stuff.
I think Jim's got some blogs on that, but and we owe you a whole package of stuff from our team. But I want to say hi-fi. What's this?
Well, I just want to say reading the Illuminatus trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson is what taught me how to kind of control crowds and do the things that I did when I was a younger man.
Ah, okay.
So a bad cult.
So,
well, no, when I built a cult and then broke it up.
The beards,
and then the beard thing. It was fun.
That was a good cult, but
that was the good cult.
The cult before that was.
Well, I didn't want it to be bad, but it turned bad out of nothing I did.
That's what cults do.
Yeah.
So I left.
Yeah. Okay.
So you left your own cult. Good for you.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? I saw someone. I don't know if this is appropriate for your show. I don't know if this is what you do.
Everything's appropriate.
Someone tweeting about like something about their landlord. Are you a landlord or are they your landlord? Someone was very angry at you. And like,
no. That's one of the suicide trolls who is dead set on harassing us for the last 3 years. And he's trying to like
a tenant of yours.
No. I made the landlord joke because I said, say what you will about landlords, but I've been living in this man's head rent free.
Yeah. So we've had.
I thought they. Oh, okay. Oh, I get it now. I'm very.
Yeah. So they
actually your tenant.
they make up many things about hi-fi, mainly because he tells them things that they then repeat, like
I blatantly lie to them to mess with their heads, and they think I'm being truthful.
Pictures of your face, and I'm like, I didn't get the point. But they said you were an anti-Semite, but I didn't understand why. Are you an anti-Semite?
That is not true. No.
My cousins are Jewish. My aunt married a Jewish guy. I've been to bat mitzvahs.
No, I'm not actually charging. I was like curious. Oh gosh.
So we've had when we launched the show a couple years ago, we immediately also became jobs creators, and we have an entire army of as Hi-Fi noted, suicide trolls, paid by the tweet folks. Some are just simply I think in the sauce a bit, and then there's also the Russian spies who pretend to be resistors. So it's quite a hodgepodge. What's that?
What was it? What did you say?
What is a suicide troll?
Oh, you don't want to know.
So, suicide trolls, first of all, troll is the wrong term. They should be called stalkers. Because trolls, like, you can troll somebody and not be trying to hurt them, right? Like, I do it all the time to people, not meaning to hurt them, just to, make a point, right? But that's not what these are. These people are trained to psychologically harm people to the point where by people like Eric Prince, right? So Eric Prince has a whole ranch in Wyoming, like it's in the book in the paper, where he trains these kinds of operatives.
I thought he was training mercenaries. He's training.
What's that?
I thought he was training mercenaries. He's trading.
No. He's both. So he's got facilities that train physical military people, but Eric Prince is probably the most expert person in the world at training internet terrorists.
So does he sell that? Does he like offer that to his clients? Like,
you betcha.
You betcha.
So many of the people that come after us, you can see they're on contracts. Like they have this person that they're attacking for 2 months, and then they move to this person, and it's very super clear.
How does that?
Very, very transactional.
So how they're on contracts versus a mob that's,
because when you're attacked by them for 3 years, you eventually figure it out, right?
And we also have a lot of allies.
It is a spaghetti at first. It's just like, whoa, what the fuck is this, right? Which is the whole point. But once you get used to it, sadly, you start to see who's actually running it, who's coordinating it, who are the foot soldiers, and who are just the morons that are going along with it.
And if you're like me and you pay attention to online information, you get to see things like that.
Well, let's see that. Let's see.
That's
Eric Prince builds up small cyber empire. Yeah. So Prince trains, for example, all the Project Veritas operatives, right? The ones
that's why I heard about this. Yeah, those guys go. Yeah.
So the Project Veritas, those are just sort of the frontline people. He also trains a lot of much darker sort of people.
Project Veritas is sort of the cream of the crop, isn't it?
Yes and no. It's the cream of the crop in terms of the most sort of slick front, and it's sort of pretends to be an actual business. But Prince does a lot of other much darker shit off the books.
Well, I mean, I would say it's the cream of the crop if you're in the New York FBI.
I don't know if we have a topic, but I have more questions about this. Can I ask more questions?
Yeah. No. We're cool.
Right. That's right. That's what I remember that article. Yeah. Who did that article? Does it? Oh,
you're muted, Boomer. Boomer muted.
What? I'm smoking anyway. Mark Mazzetti and Adam Goldman wrote that up.
The thing that puzzles me about this sometimes is that, I remember that article and I'm like, this is not like how much training is needed. Like they do like lots of like honeypot stuff, right? Like a woman goes out on a date with some nebbishy guy who works for something, and like I wrote about this in the family. This happened to me, but thank God I knew I was so nebbishy that it wasn't real. So I was like, well, actually, no, I mentioned before my friend Peter Manceau, and he and I were working on a book together, and we were staying together. And I said, Peter, this woman Molly Malone wants to meet me because she says she's a super fan, and look at her, she's so cute. And Peter's like, she's not your fan. She's from the family. And also Molly Malone, there's an old Irish folk song. And so I met with her, and Molly Malone was very cute. That was actually her real name. And I chose a super queer Chelsea cafe because I was like, okay, if it goes bad, I'll have allies around her. But like, she had not had any special training. her job was to be 25 and pretty and to put her hand on my hand a lot. It's like, oh, that's so interesting. And like every time she did that, I'm like, no one's ever done that to me. I'm not that interesting. So I know this is a lot. Like it's like, so it's a little bit like, because I'm kind of I tend to think that all the conspiracy theories are not true, left, right, whatever, because people are not that competent. Like Eric might train them like Molly, you should tell Charlotte you're a super fan. This is
no, man, no. The same. So Eric Prince set up Blackwater in
Molly was from the family, by the way. She
right. So
Yeah.
well, Eric Prince set up Blackwater in Afghanistan as a physical terrorist group to explode as many fucking Muslims as possible, right? He has no ethics whatsoever, no conscience whatsoever, right? The people that come after me and all of us,
you get a lot,
are trained. The people in charge of these groups are absolutely trained by experts.
Like
who
what are they trained in? Like they call you shit.
Oh, there are offices around the world filled with PhDs that do this type of psychological warfare. So
look, these kinds of psyops are well understood. Like Flynn did a whole 2012 paper where he collected all of the psyops and radicalization science that he could find in order to foist it on America. Like the reason why you have a bunch of 10 million brainwashed people out there are because these are professionally conducted operations and they know how to brainwash people. So on a smaller scale, the same kind of thing gets done, right? So just like QAnon is 10 million of people, you had Gamergate, which was probably 1 million people, right? But it was a cult, just the same as QAnon. It just had a different target and a different focus and
you need to train young men to hate women. Sadly, you don't. Like all society.
That is obviously the core vulnerability and the core anger that they exploit. And I was just saying this on my Zoom call. To me, that is the fundamental flaw in the human race that we need to figure out, is how to get like angry little boys who've got their feelings hurt not turn into homicidal maniacs because somebody's feeding them propaganda.
So we talk about misogyny.
That is the fundamental thing that's happened is they fed these kids propaganda and turned them into sociopaths.
We talk about misogyny as the gateway drug to so much of the radicalization issues that we have in America. I want to say something, Hi-Fi. What do you got? You got something you want to chime in?
You go, then I'll go.
So I just wanted to take Jeff back to the Wayback Machine real fast. So in 2018, I was working on a congressional campaign to take Dana Rohrabacher out of Congress. And my candidate was a very brilliant Muslim American super lawyer, really smart, really kind, worked with intelligence agents, and was just a stellar human being. The moment I announced on Twitter that I was his director of communications, I got a a coordinated pile-on of online harms. A malinformation campaign was run on me, and I also got offline harms. And when I looked back, I'm an investigative reporter by trade. When I looked back,
what are offline harms? What does that mean?
Oh, imagine a honeypot in reverse. Imagine somebody planting a seed with a partner and making them think something about you, using malinformation to make them think something about you.
Oh my God.
So my entire life was exploded. And keep in mind, who was Dana Rohrabacher's intern? I don't really want to talk about that too much, but it's not very difficult.
Not just his intern, he's his funder.
I understand.
So
all the same online harm accounts, all the same it's a longer story than that, but all the same online harms accounts that are still doing the kind of contract work to hurt people have been involved in trying to hurt and discredit us for years. And when we launched this show, I said to the guys, and they said to me back, we're going to stick together through thick and thin. I have a lot of producing experience. They probably couldn't believe the type of guests that I knew we were going to be able to get. But the show was created because of Jim's excellent research, Hi-Fi's incredible technologist background, and we needed a new model for a very failing fourth estate. So we come in this little scrappy show, and we immediately had coordinated harms, malinformation campaigns. They tried to make us so radioactive that we went from thousands of views in our first episodes to just shrinking. And then they immediately got Jim off Twitter. They did a pile on to get him off Twitter. So we had a year without Jim, who had at the time 60,000 followers and was very influential. But we just kept going. We just kept going. We believe that the work that we're doing, exposing disinformation, is very valuable. And I just want to say, and Jim, just let me say this, okay? The retired Lieutenant General Mike Flynn has sued the FBI, the DOJ, and the government branch of Jim Stewartson, which is a Jeff Charlotte line, which is hilarious. But Jeff, you may not know that in the last couple of days, Kash Patel has also sued Jim Stewartson for $10 million. So the suicide trolls were not able to shut us up. We just kept going. And here we are still doing the work. And so now they're using lawfare in order to try to get us to shut up. And we believe, being parents, we do not want our children to be raised in a fascist hellscape. So we do this work. And that is why, you know, that kind of fills in some of the background to your questions.
Well, all right. So one, I just like was just checking because I said, like, I remember Jim having a lot of followers, and I looked at Jim. I've been following you. I don't know when I followed. It was kind of long before I knew you. I was following you, so I go to see how many followers you have, and it says I'm not following you anymore.
That happens all the time.
So there's Elon Musk. I just followed you.
He caps me all the time. He just unfollows people, and it's fucking weird.
But all right, so fascist hellscape. Like,
ask me how many times I've been banned.
Well, I mean, you're not shy. High five. I've seen you. I've been following you on Twitter now, and like I know that you're a bold voice.
The answer is 25.
25.
He's been banned off of Twitter.
I'm on my fourth burner phone.
Okay,
is any of them, like, let me ask you, and I don't care, it's not like a judgmental way, like, is any of them like, you know what, I'm just gonna say some shit that will get me banned? Or is it all like a coordinated attack?
Actually, okay, so there was one, and I've told this story.
I'm just gonna publish his address or whatever.
No, I didn't publish an address. Actually, it was a national level psychological operation run by Richard Grinnell and Matt Schlapp, and it had to do.
Matt Schlapp's name is actually Matt Schlapp.
Well, it had to do.
How could it be Matt Schlapp after what he did?
Because his middle name's Groin.
No.
Stop. So I'm just here for the comedy.
Anyway, so what happened was it was during the Arizona Sharpie Gate incident. Do you remember that, Jeff?
Very important one. Yeah. There's a lot of issues with those Sharpies.
So I saw the online operation taking off. It was going up. The operation was taking off, and I saw Schlapp post about it. I took a screenshot. I saw Grinnell tweeting about Sharpies in Arizona. So what I did was I instantly attempted to diffuse their psychological operation by using a tactic called repulsion, gross out. It was nasty. What I did, there's an old internet meme known as Sharpie in the pooper. This is a thing.
What?
And there's an entire subreddit called r butt sharpies. I would not suggest you go. But yeah, it involves Sharpies in the behind. So I went to
cannot work fast enough.
I went to r butt Sharpies. I grabbed a bunch of pictures. Anywhere I saw the Sharpiegate hashtag, I started dropping Sharpie and Poopergate with the pictures.
He ran it off.
I'm looking it up now.
He ran an op that shut down Grinnell's op. And it may be distasteful. Many people believe that Hi-Fi's tactics are a bit distasteful. However, this is warfare, and he shut down Grinnell's phony ass op. And then you know what Grinnell did after he failed in that op? Because what Hi-Fi did was make it so toxic to be around that conversation and that thread that everybody scatters. It's like throwing a stink bomb on a dance floor. Everyone scatters. Yep. But what happens in this warfare is I tweet out something obvious like Peter Thiel is trying to steal our democracy, and Grinnell then leads a troll army against me with all his blue checks and his minions calling me anti-immigrant and homophobic, which I am not by any stretch of the imagination. But I am anti-Peter Thiel. That is very true. He's a bad man, in my opinion.
Peter Thiel, an immigrant? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he comes from the same neck of the woods as Elon Musk. Well, he's here.
He's
there.
Apartheid, for fuck's sake.
as near as I can trace his
discrimination against Afrikaners.
I'm sorry, but he was born in Germany to a father, and then he grew up in apartheid.
Well, he also grew up in the city that I grew up in too. So, and also did some time in Hi-Fi's neck of the woods in Ohio.
See, that's the real problem. So, as far as I know his geography, he was born in Germany, moved to Cleveland for a while, and then went to South Africa, which makes him Cleveland's problem, which is why I have to take care of him.
Oh, wait. I feel like we really should talk about the indictment, but you're from Cleveland. Did you know Harvey Picar?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you know Harvey Picar?
Yeah, Harvey. I don't know him personally, but yeah, I know his work. I mean, it's a Cleveland thing. That's like saying, do I know Devo when I live in Akron, right? I mean, it's
I made a pilgrimage to Cleveland to meet Harvey Picar. I mean,
no kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a great writer.
Yeah. All right, but don't you think we should?
Yes, wait. We're gonna talk about the indictment.
You guys are on the front line more than I am, and
hell yeah. But you're on the front line too, man. We are all frontline warriors.
I am not sworn by suicide trolls, and now I'm worried about being on your show. That maybe I am.
You should be. You should be
watching. I don't know these fucking people. These are weirdos.
I know, it's insane.
I would agree. I would agree.
On fire. I don't want to know about it.
Yeah. So it'll pass. It'll pass. Don't engage. Just block. Don't engage. Just block.
So, but what's your view of how good the indictment is? It's good, but how good?
Well, I just want to say it's been a long 7 years and 4 decades. That's all I want to say.
Look, I think there is something extremely, extremely good and extremely symbolic that Donald Trump got fucking indicted for espionage.
We don't know because we haven't actually seen the indictment. Is that actually?
No. We now know that it included the violations of the Espionage Act to be verbatim what I just saw on the television. So that is symbolic and a big deal for a whole lot of reasons, right? Going back to just the rank hypocrisy for the last 7 years after Hillary Clinton's emails and she's such a danger.
Well, we don't know for sure. Jim Trusty mentioned it. I'm looking at it right now. Jim Trusty mentioned the Espionage Act.
Pull up what you can find.
Until I read it.
All right, Heidi, you've been getting buried. What do you have to say? You have something to say.
I was what?
Did you have something to say?
I was just going to pull up whatever the most recent breaker on it was, but I do want to say that I again am an investigator.
Whatever it is, it's not good for him, right?
Oh, right, CNN. Trump faces Espionage Act charge.
Yes. So,
You're right.
so here's what I want to say. I was a investigative reporter for many years in broadcast news in a local in Los Angeles area, and every time Trump came on my radar, it was in relation to defrauding people over Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme activity. He would be the front man that an organization would roll out, and then suddenly these people who thought they could get rich would lose all their money. And I knew that everything he had been associated with was not paying people and or harming people who believed him to be a successful businessman, which I knew that he was not. And so when I found out how serious it looked in 2016, that people were going to be duped into believing that he was the successful businessman. And now we know, of course, he came into the presidency broken in debt. I found it was a duty to warn. And as a member of the media who had been, reasonably well liked considering, I went public with what I knew and I began reporting, and I got radio silence and ostracized from my own industry, which disgusts me how broken the Fourth Estate is. But I knew that this was going to be a different type of battle and the old rules wouldn't apply. And right after the election, which I knew he was going to win, I held up a sign in the first protest saying, I do not accept a fascist America, because I knew that this was fascism. Just as you said, when he came down that escalator, that was a fascist aesthetic. I had already known, if places like Australia refused to allow him to do business in the 80s because of his mob ties, his transnational organized crime ties, what the fuck were we doing thinking about putting him in the presidency? And then, of course, investigating Trump Russia became my life's work.
He came back from Moscow and then put an anti-NATO full-page ad in New York Times. Like, what was confusing about that to the goddamn FBI and or the CIA, right? Like, why did this billionaire, trust fund kid, go to Moscow and then do anti-NATO shit in the New York Times? Like, why didn't somebody look at that a long time ago?
Well, it's
there
not
was
just that.
there
It's
was
the money
first
laundering.
Hold on, let me
Okay.
drop one more thing, and then so 50 years ago, the FBI started to look into Donald Trump as for a potential indictment. There's FBI paperwork from 50 fucking years ago for when they first started looking into a potential indictment against this guy for his human rights violations, basically back then, and it took 50 years. So I think it is both a condemnation of our system, but also a thank God eventually it worked.
I mean, the things we have to think about. He bought concrete from Fat Tony Salerno, right?
Well, who didn't? Who didn't though?
I never did. He laundered money through
patio out of.
What?
I'm joking.
I don't have I have a wood deck. It's Ohio. Anyway.
So we've had Craig Unger on the show many times. This is something that goes back to the 80s.
Yeah.
And Craig and Wayne Barrett and Karen DeWeesha, and everybody's been reporting on.
Did you have Wayne Barrett?
What's that?
Did you have Wayne Barrett on the show before he died?
No, I wish we had. No, I write about him and Karen DeWeesha, and I write about the investigative reporter from Russia who was assassinated. I think it was 2006, a couple years before Nemtsov. And so we have all.
Viewers know who these people are. Like, do we need to ID Wayne Barrett as the great Village Voice, longtime chronicler of Trump corruption, or everyone knows that?
Well, no, I don't. I think you should never.
Now they do. Thank
you. They do now. Well done. Here's a couple other names you might know that. Okay, so this is where maybe my thoughts diverge from other people's, but as near as I can tell, based on the networks that we are facing in this rise of fascism, the people who have given their lives to expose it are Gary Webb,
yes,
Danny Casolaro.
You got to identify him. Gary Webb.
Well, Gary, let's say Gary Webb was the CIA cocaine Nicaragua.
Contragate, and who
Yes.
committed suicide and may in fact genuinely have committed suicide.
Yeah,
He
no.
did.
Hold on. Didn't he shoot himself twice in the head?
Well, but the point is that
He was
these things,
either he was killed or he was driven to it.
right? Exactly. Kind
All
of
right.
like the guy we mentioned early on, either was defenestrated or drunk or committed
Yeah,
suicide.
he may have fallen out of the window. It happened.
Yeah. Okay. So
It just happens a lot.
Danny Casolaro, who was definitely afraid of blood, definitely afraid of
I don't know who he
needles.
is. Who is he?
Danny Casolaro, he was investigating. Hold on one second. No, I got to pull him up. He was. Danny Casolaro. Here we go. American freelance writer who came to public attention in '91 when he was found dead in a bathtub. He was investigating Promise and Inslaw, which was software, PROMIS. And it was case management software for prosecutors and law enforcement. And there's a whole bunch of
free Palantir. They
yeah.
they people out of Promise.
So I am going to get us away from this morbid theme right
Hold on,
now.
we're almost done. So Gary Webb, Danny Casolaro, and of course, Michael Hastings.
Well, yeah.
Do you remember Michael Hastings?
Yeah, I'm a Vermonter, so yeah, he's a Vermonter as well.
That is a whole thing. That's a whole thing. So.
And we don't know. We don't know. We don't know.
It's very possible that Michael Hastings. I mean, here's the thing. I'll say this.
This is a whole conversation. So
this is my perspective, right? As a writer who some years ago didn't understand that the stories that you collect are cumulative, not sequential, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't just oh, I smoke one cigarette, that's all it is. Now I smoke another. Mm-hmm. It adds up, right? And I think it is quite possible that Hastings burned himself to a cinder trying to tell the truth and do that heavy work. And for the viewers who don't know, Michael Hastings, I mean, I talk about him in class all the time because and I teach creative writing. I don't teach hardcore journalism. But what Hastings did is he observed the reality. He did a story that brought down Stanley McChrystal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who was then top general in Afghanistan. And how did he bring him down? Did he bring him down by saying, look, he's torturing folks and so on? No, he brought him down by being in the room and listening and saying, hey, this chit chat, this matters. I'm not going to be one of these reporters I only pay attention to important things. Mm-hmm. It's they're talking about Bud Light, which of course now means it's but back then just meant I like Bud Light Lime and fuck Obama, who is the commander in chief, and that was enough. And that was enough to bring they were insubordinate of the commander in chief. You had no choice but to fire them. And at the time, every fucking legacy reporter says, well, I've been in the room and heard those kinds of things all the time, and reporters just hear those things. And you're like, and you know who led the charge against him? Do you remember who led the charge against Hastings? Lara fucking Logan.
And you know who else did?
Who?
Joe Biggs. Joe Biggs.
I thought Joe Biggs was his friend.
He was, but as soon as he died, he went on Alex Jones half a dozen times to make stuff up.
Well, let's be clear about Joe Biggs. Let's have a moment of silence for his ass, because he's an insurrectionist, seditionist, conspiracy convicted, going to spend some time behind bars for a long time. Correct?
Right. Who is also in the military in Afghanistan.
I mean, I have to say, if Hastings was alive today, I'm dishonoring the dead, but I'm going to say that guy was already on the Taibbi slide. And I don't.
That's interesting because he was doing RT interviews and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I think he would have gotten there, but nonetheless, he was incinerated. I mean, he made a lot of money, but also, and I mean, I've been there when I published The Family in 2008. I was fucking denounced. I was done. In journalism unless a bunch of congressmen had not fucked the wrong people and gotten caught. And then suddenly I'm like, well, I'm trying to tell you about this group's involvement in genocide in Somalia. And the producers are like, "Where's the Somalia?" Ooh, but is Willie in the wrong person? Oh my goodness! Now that's international fucking news, right?
Right.
I think Hastings kind of went down the same way. I don't know that he was assassinated. I don't think he was.
I don't know that he was either.
We don't know.
But can I
hold
explain
on,
something?
I have something to say. There have been conversations with existing yes, our friend Jackie Hastings,
Jackie Hastings. Jackie Singh.
I was looking at Michael there. Wrote this about a very strange incident with Mike Flynn's brother Joe concerning Michael Hastings and his death. It is not appropriate to go into the entire thing here, but it was an instructive and interesting conversation, regardless of how you interpret it.
I want to go in a different direction now.
Yeah,
The last thing I want to say is that Joe is a big fan of Rad Pods, so that is just he's a huge fan.
He's in my DMs. I keep telling him to roll before it gets bad. I hope he listens.
I hope so too. But what I do want to say is, like, it's always this weird thing, like with both Wayne Barrett and Karen DeWeesha, two of the greatest reporters on the subject matter that has really had a huge global impact. They both died of these weird lung diseases, and they didn't smoke. And it's like, is it or isn't it? We don't know. The person who did the great Robert Mercer expose for McClatchy had a banister accident. Apparently that's just a banister accident, and that happens. But it's like we don't know. That's the kind of creepy thing.
Wait,
where
you're saying that the Russians are like one note. They're like, we gotta. If it ain't.
Well, I have been told to
just push them out the window, but we got the banister, we got the.
Got the banisters,
there's lots of safety issues. That's all. We have to. It's a safety issue.
It's a little hanky. We don't know, but I do want to say something. I think that's very important, because Robert Hansen passed away. So another eulogy. He was a spy as well. And my friend Jeff Stein from Spy Talk eulogized him in his way. And I just want to read a couple things, because I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, I've been thinking about how, if you go back in time, what the KGB looked for were losers who thought they were winners, and people who might be in their cups, but also like big egos. So I just want to read this. It's about spies. They are all weird in their own way. Healthy people don't spy, says former CIA case officer and Russia hand John Cipher. And then they quote John Le Carré, who was writing about the bitter Alex Lemus grousing from The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. What the hell do you think spies are? Moral philosophers measuring everything they do against the word of God or Karl Marx? They're not. They're just a bunch of seedy, squalid bastards like me. Little men, drunkards, queers, henpecked husbands, civil servants, playing cowboys and Indians to brighten their rotten little lives. Do you think they sit like monks in a cell, balancing right against wrong? Spies are not regular folks, and not in the usual movie sense. They all have tics. Alcoholism, raging egos being among the most common, some far more than that. I bring that up because I think we have been a little bit shy to call some of these motherfuckers spies. It occurred to me that those in the U.S. who are creating an unreality to sell fascist ideology and pro-Kremlin talking points are spies. If they're taking money from Russia in exchange for information and selling unreality, what are we supposed to call them? I bring that up because Donald Trump was indicted.
For espionage.
Indicted.
For espionage.
Well, let me give you like a counter case, and this was years ago. One of the very first stories I did, and it was the veterans of the American veterans of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, who were the Americans who went and fought in the Spanish Civil War. They came back to America, and viewers who don't know this, I bet you all know this, but they were then prosecuted as, and this is one of the all-time great phrases, premature anti-fascists. Like 1936. Oh no, that's too early. Hitler. It's hard to say. I mean, the New York Times couldn't decide. So
Right.
they're premature anti-fascists. So for the 50th anniversary, they were all going back to Spain to be made honorary citizens of Spain, and it was a sad trip. There are octogenarians that went back with them. A right-wing government had taken power since then, and it decided to rescind this. And these octogenarians are there. One guy drops dead of a heart attack on the floor of their parliament. But I'm talking to all these folks, and there's no being shy around here. They were mostly communists, and I'm writing this for a Yiddish magazine, right? That's why I was doing, because Yiddish was their lingua franca. Jewish communists. Look, I'm Jewish. We were communists, and we're talking about the Rosenbergs, and a bunch of them knew them, and they're like, yeah, they did it. Of course they did it. Of course they did it, and we know now that's true. Actually, that is true. And I would have done it too. And they weren't doing it for fucking Soviet money. They were doing it. Take it for what you will. So, like, I think of like spies and money. And the one thing I was going to say is like, there are a lot of like the fascists. And look, I'm fine with the Rosenbergs. The Rosenbergs are like, holy shit, one country gets nuclear weapons. That's bad. But the fascists don't need to get paid to fascist. You know, Flynn, I don't know. Yeah, it seems like he's profiting. He doesn't need to get paid to he was going to fascist anyway. But my God, you'll pay on top of that, icing on the cake.
Well, it's all about the mice. It's all about the mice. Money,
Well,
ideology, compromise, and ego. It's got to be one of those four, or a combination thereof.
Let me just say, in recent days, Mike Flynn has launched a Cameo service for $150. You can get Mike Flynn for up to 90 seconds. Also, you can go to gold.generalflynn.com and buy overpriced gold bars in digital form from Mike Flynn, who is currently telling everyone that the globalists, meaning the Jews, are going to institute a digital currency and everyone is going to lose all their money.
But this is good news, right? $150. That means he is desperate for funds to go after you. Like $150 is not top dollar. Some of my favorite TV show stars have more than that.
I just want to remind you, he's suing Jim Stewartson.
That's what I'm saying. He needs money. He's so desperate. He's like, I'll say whatever the fuck you want. So I don't think, I mean, he'll do anything for money, but I think like the reality is that the fashion, I mean, I go back to Masha Gessen. I think we talked about this last time.
Yeah, we did.
I just want to know if he will perform the Q rap that I've been working on.
High Five's been writing a Q rap song.
The chorus, the chorus goes,
I will pay for it.
Okay.
I just can't handle it when people call me Q. My body gets twitchy, bushy eyebrows all askew.
Stop it. Okay, so we are going to go back to our man of the hour, Donald Jessica Trump, or as I like to call him, Trump Yanukovych, because to Putin, Trump is just another Yanukovych. I believe in celebrating the wins when they come in and when we get them, because they're often short-lived, because they then incite violence and chaos and destabilization. And we've already heard all the warring rhetoric, and we've already, we have been hearing very violent words coming out of Trump for many couple of years now. Well, he actually did incite a violent insurrection. So
did you see the email that he sent out tonight?
Yeah,
they're trying to use elimination and total war.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, he's saying the Democrats are doing that, but I'm sort of like what
projection.
That means is.
And what they always
news, and what was fascinating is they're saying like this is the end stages of a republic. And now I've just been reading Patrick Deneen, who you all probably know and listeners know, is like the theorist. He's the big, heavy intellectual. He's not actually very heavy, but you know, he's like, I've read Augustine. Oh wow. But
I read Kierkegaard.
his most recent book is called Regime Change. And he's a Notre Dame professor. He's sort of the intellectual heavyweight, right? But so they're talking about late stage republic. And what I realized what they're doing in Eliminationist and Total and so on, they're saying like the republic has fallen. So that means it's whatever you want now, right? Like in other words, like we're not staying in the game. Like as long as the game is still there, like we are contending in this democracy, that's something. But no, they have launched total war against us. So what do you do when someone launches total war against you? You launch total war back.
Well,
and then what do you have? A fucking civil war, which is the whole point.
I was so worried when I published this book with the subtitle Slow Civil War. I'm like, what if it gets better by then? And everyone's like, oh, so hysterical. But now they're going to be like, Slow Civil War. Who is this asshole? God, this guy is really behind the times.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody who reads your book, and I know many people who've read your book, think anything of the sort. That book is to be cherished.
While we're talking, I just checked CNN. I'm like, I hope no violence has happened in the hour we've been talking.
Can I just share with you, Jeff, a piece of mimetic warfare?
Please.
I call this piece Osama Flynn Laden.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! This is parody. This is parody. This is parody. This is high-five
mimetic warfare. I mean, we've got the WWG1 WGA. This over here says MAGA 3X bitches.
So
American ISIS.
All right, wait. I gotta say something though. All right, so high five. Here's a question, and I'm actually challenging myself here because I'll tell you to be honest. For a long time, when people say, "Oh, American Taliban or Christian Taliban," I'm like, "Fuck that." No, they're not. First of all, because we've been fucking with people long before the Taliban existed, right?
Oh yeah.
We created the Taliban and everything else, and so and I always think like so. But now I'm questioning myself. Like on the one hand, I'm like, I know you're not Islamophobic, hi-fi, but I'm like, man, this
no, my nephew is Muslim.
So is mine. Nephews, yay.
Nephews, yeah, right. But that's a whole story in itself, but yeah.
But so now I'm thinking like because I've been paying attention to you as like a good troll and like mimetic, like my high-minded, let us not say that. And I'm like,
okay,
I'm being like one of those assholes who says Antifa should quietly hold a candle instead of
So let me quote.
Maybe I'm being naive.
Let me quote Jeff Charlotte, and then let me just quote Jeff Charlotte, and then you go. To quote Jeff Charlotte, who goes to churches in Yuba City where they find the cross to be weak tea, and where they replaced it with swords, and where they give retired generals AR-15s or automatic rifles as gifts, and then such words are spoken like so. I think that I just wanted to express that because I think that we're already there. Watch our episode with Mia Bloom where she talks about this. High five.
I wanted to, but you'll get there. I promise.
He won't remember.
It's not my favorite meme because it could be, I think, misinterpreted. But I think there is a fundamental thing that's actually really important about it. America is being radicalized, at least certain sections of it, just like ISIS was, with the same martyrdom as you talked about.
You made that you guys last time with the black flag. That was that I've been thinking about since that. I think hi-fi you made that point with the black flag and ISIS.
It really is the same. That it's the whole. There is another color of people coming to the country to take your children, right? That's like the whole save the children, child trafficking, all of that blood Bible
That's
shit.
how ISIS got women.
All the same exact messaging. And ISIS also used traumatic videos depicting children being harmed.
Well,
the main psychological weapon of QAnon to get people red pilled are traumatic videos about children.
Oh, so, all right, wait. It's Hi-Fi's turn, but that makes me think of something. But
Yeah,
that's good.
I'm just saying that literally, and I think Mia Bloom's book is a really important one on the subject.
pastels and pedophiles.
These techniques are not. I'm not just saying ISIS techniques sort of metaphorically. I mean, it's really the same exact tactic.
Well, it's interesting, Hi-Fi, because you can also go back to the 1920s Italy, and you will see the same thing. You will see the trucks with the big flags. So this is this is all part of the same
Mussolini's
thing.
people, right? No, here's my thing with the Osama bin Laden. All right, Al Qaeda, ISIS, the Islamic Caliphate, ISIL, whatever, whichever, pick one. They start out as a networked insurgency, just a few guys with an extreme ideology, right? And they spread that, and they spread it digitally, right? They spread it through the online videos and the traumatic stuff. They recruit women, right? What do they attack? Women's rights, right? Hey, what's going on in the United States?
Gay rights are under attack.
Oh,
trans
hey,
rights under attack.
Uganda's Christian, but they just passed the anti-homophobic law. But Afghanistan, are you allowed to be openly homosexual or transsexual? What would happen? What happens in Saudi Arabia?
Well, that's actually a weird thing. In Iran, if you're trans, they pay for the surgery.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, I guess props for that.
Not because they're so progressive, but because they've just so medicalized that they're like, oh,
go ahead.
You must be this other person. We would not want you to be gay, so we better.
Our most recent episode was with our friend Sian Norris, who just did a book called Bodies Under Siege, where she basically shows how the dark money in America from the groups such as CNP are actually funding so much of this anti-abortion and anti-gay, legislation throughout various parts of the world. So it actually does all kind of tie back to America. These same groups pushing this type of authoritarian capture. Jim, what are you doing over there? You were.
I have a piece of good news, which is that yesterday, speaking of the CNP, the Council for International Policy, the president,
Pat Robertson, former president, rest in peace.
Indeed, but the current president, a man that I like to refer to as the Incredible Cuck, Tom Fitton, got himself a door knock from the FBI in the morning yesterday while he was on his radio program.
For what? What did he get? What did he get?
I don't know, but he made a big deal.
Steroids.
From the
Roid
FBI.
rage.
Well, I would hope it has something to do with the fact.
This is good. This means good things.
I'm saying steroids because if people don't know what Tom Fitton is, it's like his thing is like he likes to dress like the Incredible Hulk, busting out of his shirt.
That's the guy.
I wonder how hard is he working for fascism, because he's obviously in the gym like fucking 10 hours a day.
Well, actually, Jeff Charlotte talks about that. Jeff Charlotte talks about militant eroticism. And that is something that I have been thinking about as I retweeted Fitton talking about the FBI door knock. I did FAFO him above. My retweet was like FAFO because they've been FAFOing that group has been FAFOing a lot, so do we have to? Come on.
Hold on. I want to say this.
Look at the nipples.
I don't want to see it. I want to see it.
Stop for a second. Hold on. First off, yes, this is probably one of the reasons he's so angry is because his nipples have to be so goddamn chafed.
Oh, they're chafed, but he can't like put a Band-Aid over them or something, because he knows like those nipples. Because look, militant eroticism, we think this guy looks like a moron. But like Trump, like Lauren Boebert, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, there are folks who are like, that's sexy. And I'm not actually.
Well, that's why the Nazis wore Hugo Boss, right? But I would like to say that my response, he's worried a corrupt Biden Justice Department indictment of Trump could undo our republic. And I'm just thinking to myself, if he takes a deep fucking breath it's gonna undo his fucking shirt.
But
And he
that's
should
the whole
worry about
appeal.
that
That's all the whole,
first.
that's the psyops, because he knows there's a certain kind of audience who's like, I'd like to undo your republic. They're like they want to hold those nipples and like look. I'm not gonna kink shame. If you want to get with Tom Fitton, that's fine. Just don't give him money. Right?
Well, or just don't destroy our democracy, okay? Like, just
in fact, that's right. Get with Tom Fitton. Keep him busy.
Yes, keep him busy.
We need Fitton nipplegate.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Hold on. I'm going to throw this out there. Tom, when you get out of prison, and I know you're going to get buff in prison, bro, come to me and I will pimp you. I will sell your mangina. I will make sure you are busy.
I got nipple clamps.
I got clamps. I got ropes. I will hook you up, Tom.
Okay,
come to me when you get out.
We have just jumped the shark. I thought you were going to say you're going to get him a nice Italian suit, make sure it fits.
I'm going to keep him busy. I'm going to put him to work.
Okay,
as soon as mangina comes in the conversation.
No, that's when I'm done. But no.
Yeah, I'm against this. The hi-fi. You on control, man. Like the mic and power band, like the mangina. I'm like, is this? Yeah, I'm confused. Is this misogyny? Is this Islamophobia? And what is necessary now at this critical hour? And what any means necessary? I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
I just want Tom to be successful and happy when he gets out. I don't want him to fall into that trap. You know, recidivism is a very serious thing, Jeff.
Okay,
and I want him to have gainful employment.
So wait, do you think the FBI thing that was like seriously, it's steroids?
We don't know. We don't know.
Here's this. A lot of different things are going on.
No, wait, I take that back, because that might be, is that libelous for me to say? I don't know. It's not steroids. Tom Fitton lifts the weights. He's super strong. And
very strong, very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong. Very
strong.
It's all natural.
So
it's not steroids. It's not a bit, man. I go to the gym. I know that guy.
He's like 65 years old, or whatever. And he's got, I don't know how old he is, but he's much older than his muscles.
He's winning the war. Let's move on to somebody who's really.
I bet he waxes his chest.
Stop it. Let's move on.
You don't high-five?
Let's move on to somebody who's very militantly erotic. Steve Bannon got subpoenaed. A lot's happened in the last couple days.
No, I'm turned on.
Oh.
What?
Steve Bannon got subpoenaed. Back when I was a very angry person in 2017, because I saw my country being stolen by these guys from the 80s who I just couldn't stand. I didn't like the 80s. I didn't like it again in 2016, 2017. I saw the media trying to sell Steve Bannon on us. There he was on, Charlie Rose. It took 7 Washington Post reporters to not mention his affiliation with Cambridge Analytica. I was angry. So every time Steve Bannon came up, I would just tweet, burp, fart, hurl. I was so juvenile. I would just everywhere. I would just write burp, fart, hurl, because that's what I would see. I didn't see militant eroticism.
Wait, what does that mean? I don't know what it means.
Burp, fart, hurl.
Oh.
My reaction to seeing his face being sold to us all the time was a very visceral reaction, and I covered all the bases.
No, I'll make a case for Steve Bannon as militant eroticism. I actually really will.
Oh, come on.
Right. He's a grotesque figure. He's a deliberately grotesque figure, but he's a hedonistic figure, and this is the transgression. This is what I wanted to say on the Joy Reid show tonight. That I was sort of like saying, look, Christian nationalism is not like the Christian right. What Mike Pence doesn't understand is that piety doesn't sell anymore. Now it's what feels good. So Steve Bannon eats red meat. He smokes cigars. He drinks too much. His nose is amazing, and he wears bright colors, and he's rich as fuck. And he's like, I do what I want. It's a little bit, we were talking about Satanism at the beginning of the show. What is it like? What is it? Do as thou wilt or whatever. I just know this.
Yeah, that's it.
Do as thou wilt shall be the rule of the
I
law.
wear 3 shirts and I don't give a shit.
Do as thou wilt, and that's the eroticism. And I do really believe that there's a lot of people who look at that and they see that as license, and they're like, "Shit, man, I do not need to perfect myself. I'm just going to let it all hang out." And look, this is where, when you get into like the cancel culture and so on, and there's a way in which the left does play into it, that the right has able to frame itself as the party of transgression, and transgression is powerful. And it's
as somebody who's an expert on this subject, do you think the reason that Pence dressed up as a leather daddy was to kind of give himself sort of this image, you know, kind of take the Milk-K toast away and put him on a hog with the leathers?
All right, so this is like a James Watt word. I can't use it, so I'm not going to, because I think it's really wrong. But all I could think of was, oh God, not Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and the end. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
I'm not going to say the word. You know,
don't. But I do.
Rhymes with shrimp.
I got banned from Twitter for that word.
We are not going to say yes, but we're not going. So I get your point.
It's a bad word. It's a bad
Why
word.
is it a bad word?
Well,
because it's derogatory to people who are otherwise able. I actually believe that.
Yeah.
I mean,
no. It's not about.
We're not going to use Jeff's. I know what you're saying. I just worried if he was trying to sexy up his image.
I'm thinking of that character in like when.
Yeah.
We know what you're thinking.
Because look, Pence is militant eroticism too. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. And look, it's easy for liberals and lefties to laugh at this because it's not our sexuality.
Yeah.
But like, Mother Pence is porn. You know, like, you know how he calls his wife mother and he won't go into a room. Look, this is a guy, and this is something I've written about a lot and thought about a lot and read all the books, like Every Man's Battle. Does anyone know about these books? These are some of the best-selling books of our time. You know what Every Man's Battle is?
No.
Jim, hi-fi?
No.
Masturbation. And you know what the greatest threats to masturbation is, according to this million-selling book? Volleyball shorts. I'm not making this up. No, what you need to do is you need to learn when there's a woman who is not your spouse, and if your wife isn't there, because you better have a wife, like, you need to learn, I'm not making this up, bounce your eyes. Heidi, I can't see you right now. I'm bouncing my eyes. I don't see you. And Pence is from this world. Now, think about that though, right? Mother Pence, he won't be in any room with a woman unless Mother Pence is there, right? That is an incredibly sexualized world. Everything is fucking sex. And I think about this years ago. I was researching at Wheaton College, which is a Bible college, Billy Graham's college in Illinois, and it feeds the right wing too. And the student body was out ahead of the faculty, and they had decided that any physical contact between a man and a woman was a slippery slope to sex. Fuck dancing, handshakes were a problem. And I remember reading this in their student newspaper, and I'm sitting there in the cafeteria. I've been working in their archives, and I thought, my God, if I got up here and I just walked out of this cafeteria and I just went pop, 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 I would ruin them all for marriage forever. They could never be redeemed. And they're folks who really believe this but that's not an anti-erotics. That is folks who want everything.
Wow.
To be sex, right?
Wow.
That and then Trump. Like, we think Trump is disgusting. I think Trump is disgusting, but I've been in these rallies. They think he's the king of sex. You know, they really do. He's a man his sexuality is always front and center. Like, I've never once thought about what Biden does in the bedroom. How many
do all the people
all been compelled to think about Trump's little, as Stormy Daniels says, little mushroom dick, right?
I have a question. If all those people find Donald Trump sexy, does that mean they all have a diaper fetish?
Yes, you prude. You swear. You
don't be.
Don't kink shame. High five.
Yeah, you're kink shaming, bro.
You know what, guys? It totally depends.
But oh god. I made it. I made a Depends joke.
I feel like you two.
Maybe I was pampered growing up. I don't know.
So just to bring all this talk on home, I get up in the morning, and after I say my gratitude and I think about all the positive shit, I dive into the Twitter hellscape and I see what Hi-Fi is up to. Most of it I can't retweet, but it always has a point. He doesn't do this stuff randomly. He literally has been.
Okay.
He's been so that and then of course the next thing is Jim, where I freaking blindly just go in. I just go in because someone's got to do this work. So it may as well be us. And that's all I got to say about that. Today was a good day.
I just wanted to hold on.
right.
I just wanted to finish, and I won't use the word because there's sensitivities. I get it.
Yeah.
But I was banned from Twitter for the first time by a bunch of trolls for calling Joe Rogan Steve Bannon shrimp.
It was actually written
But
up
I
in
didn't
the
use the word.
Independent.
Anti-fascist campaigner.
I made international news, Jeff, for calling Joe Rogan Steve Bannon shrimp.
I mean, there is some irony given like Joe Rogan's brand of humor and his whole thing. Like,
yeah.
Did he?
It was obviously about. It was the trolls made it about being ableist or something. It was like, no, it's about that fucking dude in Pulp Fiction. Like, if you type into Twitter GIFs the word shrimp, you come up with the Pulp Fiction dude.
Really? So
and they banned me for it.
Which I don't recommend you do.
Hey, Jeff, I don't think people really realize how much news we actually make happen on this show.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I am mentioned. They use my quotes in this article about when Epic got hacked and Rob Monster had a prayer meeting. I'm in this article.
Yeah.
They don't use my name.
The best one was when you hacked the phone. That was better.
They called us.
They never credit us. They never credit us.
Whose phone did you have?
I didn't hack anyone's phone.
There was a prayer meeting with like all the prayers for Trump or whatever, pastors for Trump, and Mike Flynn put his backstage link in the invite on Twitter. So instead of
Hi-Fi didn't hack anybody.
Nobody got hacked at all.
Nobody got hacked at all.
I'm telling you how it worked. Mike Flynn made a mistake and put put his backstage link. Yes, that's it. And I was the one who saw it. I was like, "Hey, internet genius, you just gave your backstage link out," and he didn't take it down or anything. I tried to warn him, and so Hi-Fi did what Hi-Fi does and went backstage.
I see you, Jim. He's like, we may not see the eye to eye, but like, we're fellow travelers.
I was just pointing it out. I was just trying to help. And then guess what? Mike Flynn blocked me for the first time in 3 years.
Just for trying to help.
All of everything, it was that incident that made him block me.
But wait, this raised a question for me, right? So like Flynn does this, and like the incompetence of that, and so now I tell some personal details. My father, my late father, Bob Charlotte, was what was called a Sovietologist. He was a political science. He did his a law degree at University of Moscow Law. He was a Cold Warrior, advised the CIA.
Super cool.
Everything else, well, the CIA not so cool. But the Sovietologist stuff, right? But the downfall of the Soviet Union, right? And he knew all, Steve Cohen and all those guys. Like they were all like a group of guys who did that, right? The Soviet Union fell, and this is a really key thing, not because of Ronald Reagan, blah, 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 which is the myth. It's because of one thing that my father wrote about, which was the Contra system, which was no shit. What a surprise. They had a massive, massive, massive black market, right? Yeah. And two, one of the things that I've just never forgotten, their Air Force was never ready. And I don't quite know how this works, but I know that apparently you can use jet fuel to make vodka. And so at Air Force bases all over the Soviet Union, they had just jets that couldn't get in the air because the pilots were just like, well, I could fight the Cold War or I could get fucked up. And the collapse of the Soviet Union is all like, Ronald Reagan stood them down. No, it fell from, and the same, like, I know this too from, all right, that's my father. I'm going on a family tangent here. Just let me do this. This is good. My uncle, after my name, Jeff Charlotte, died in 1969, founder of a newspaper called the Vietnam GI, volume 4 Vietnam GI's anti-war paper. He was a Vietnamese translator and torturer in Vietnam, and that turned him against him. And from him, and also from Senator Jim Webb, remember him?
Oh yeah,
U.S. Democrat. I learned, and so then they like told me where to look. Well, not my uncle because he died before I was born, but Webb. They told me where to look, and I understood this. Why did the United States end the Vietnam War? Was it all us great? Not maybe, I don't know how old y'all are. People going out in the street and standing up to it. No. Was it even the Vietnamese who fought like fucking hell? That was a big part of it. But you know what the biggest part of it was? By 1972, according to internal military documents, over 50% of the forces in Vietnam were not fighting. They were high. By the early 70s, they stopped issuing black soldiers guns because they knew what they would do with them. Jim Webb tells me this. It's like, oh yeah, like we weren't going to try and arrest them. There's a huge settlement outside of Saigon of black soldiers get shipped over there and like, fuck no, I'm not fighting for this, right? So like the incompetence and the brokenness of the system, and like Mike Flynn posting that there is what makes me think of that. And that's also to me the hope, right? The incompetence of fascism, right? And that's like what seems like what trolling really is like looking for these idiot fault lines that they establish.
If there's a saving grace about this whole thing is that Mike Flynn has spent, or somebody has spent a shitload of money to try and take this guy and this little podcast out, and he couldn't.
That's amazing, right? Like this is like right,
so that gives us some hope.
What fuck ups? What incredible fuck ups. And that's like why, like when you tell me like Michael Hastings, like I'm like, that guy's kind of probably like I've driven fast and drunk too much and not at the same time. But
we don't know.
Yeah, there's anyway.
Like it's like
we don't know.
Occam's razor. It's so beautiful. Mike Flynn is a fucking idiot, right?
Jeff,
that's Occam's razor.
Are you familiar with Hanlon's razor?
Hanlon's razor? No.
I wish to protect.
So Occam's razor says that the simplest answer is the correct answer, right?
Right. Not always. It could be.
Well, it could be. Yeah. But Hanlon's razor says never attribute to malice what can be easily explained by incompetence.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. Hanlon's razor is a very special razor because it's double-sided. Never just say something is incompetence when it could be malice.
Oh, it's both. It's both.
Yeah, sure.
Malicious and incompetent.
Okay. So what
and Trump, I mean, look, we see today, like, what was his big plan? He tells his pool guy to fucking drain the pool, right? This was this guy, the most powerful figure. You saw this?
I just have to say, as an IT professional, if they were following a backup system, there would be other copies somewhere else, which I believe there were. B, it doesn't matter how much fucking water you dump on hard drives. There are specialists out there who can get that shit back. I know some of them.
That's what I thought, but I don't know if Trump knows that. I think he might
because he's like every other manager who's really blown in my life. He's fucking incompetent.
He's like, and you try and tell him this information. He doesn't listen. He tells the pool guy to drain it, and the pool guy tries to say, Mr. Trump, I don't think it's gonna shut up and do it. And the pool guy's like, okay. And so then the FBI comes or DOJ comes and he's like, I tried to tell him, but he wouldn't listen. And
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
And you know, what's the pool guy gonna do? Is he gonna stand up for Trump or
no, Trump bought him a lawyer. Did you see this?
with that?
You guys have lawyers. Jim,
Except he,
Trump's been buying lawyers for everybody. Jim, you should.
except he won't pay the bills. That's the
Oh,
problem.
he bought him a lawyer. He bought the pool guy a lawyer.
He did. You should start tweeting, Trump, I think Flynn's a double agent. He's against you, and he'll get you somebody good.
I
think the pool boy should know. Hold on. The pool boy should demand the same deal that Falwell's pool boy had to get the wife too.
That's why we think alike, but I'm just wondering, since that guy was no longer employed by Falwell, how do we know it's not the same guy?
Oh,
that's going to be the memoir of the fucking century.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It was the pool boys who brought down the fascists.
That's right.
Oh my God. That I don't think we can possibly top that. What?
Can we watch something real fast before we go?
What is
and I
it?
don't want to watch it with sound. I just want to watch it for everyone's reaction to his expressions. Because I think this is important and I think our audience deserves to see this. I just want people to look at this man's face and his eyes. Look at his eyes.
Well,
zoom in, man. Zoom in.
Victimhood is a thing. So, you know, Berlusconi does it. You know, victimhood's a thing.
He looks exactly like he's been pepper sprayed in the last 5 minutes.
Well, but also he looks like there's a certain kind of I think it's Japanese, like traditional makeup that involves a lot of red.
Kabuki.
Like kabuki.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's super watery. Like you can see it in there. It's
weird.
If
you get it, I'll send you the tweet. But if you get up close, his eyes like.
Is it too cynical to think he was squirted with onions in advance? Because I mean,
I think that was
an
old.
actor.
He was
the Kyle Rittenhouse method.
Oh, it's funny you should say that, because the reason this show exists in the form it exists in is because one day a retired troll who'd grown up, got married, had kids, and became a technologist saw the Kyle Rittenhouse fundraiser and thought, you know, people should not fundraise off of killing other people. So this technologist investigated that fundraiser, and what happened to him? Well, the rest
I found
is
this asshole over here.
the rest is rock and roll history.
Wait,
he knew her.
With you, hi-fi, and
It led to a network. It led to a network.
Jim started. Jim was first. Jim started August 2nd, 2020, roughly, and I came in August 28th, 2020. So 26 days after Jim.
They're like soldiers in this horrible war. And seriously, when I met Jim, it was like, because I've been doing it since 2016 in my own world, different from their world, which focused so much on disinformation, but it was always the same networks. And that was where the connective tissue was. And so that's what happened. And then they tried to save the world, and instead of that, they got infiltrated, they got banned, they got everything happened to them.
It's a whole mini series one day.
Yeah.
I'll show you all my messages from some of the big names in Anonymous sometime.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Like those Anonymous are bad guys?
Some of them.
Look, Anonymous is exactly what it sounds like. A bunch of anonymous people. And guess what? Anonymous people are often shitty.
I agree, Jim.
So all I'm saying is you can, from my direct knowledge of things, you can make that same kind of inference in terms of this particular group of people.
Yeah.
The reason I am anonymous now,
more and more ass-hattery as time has gone on, unfortunately.
The reason I am anonymous now is predominantly employment.
Yeah.
When I started this activity, I was using my real name, and my employer got a bunch of emails from trolls. I actually have some text I'll show you sometime, and you can talk to my former boss. He still loves me. But they accused me of being a hacker and DDoSing Give Send Go and taking down the Rittenhouse fundraiser, which I don't even code. I'm an infrastructure guy, but whatever. That led to me being fired from a $200,000 a year job. So I went harder, and that resulted in a Russian gangster named Sergei Grishin filing a fraudulent DMCA, Digital Millennium Copyright Act takedown on me from Twitter, which got me knocked off of Twitter.
Oh yeah, yeah, you mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, so I came back and went harder, and suddenly I was surrounded by people from Anonymous, and weird shit happened.
Like solidarity.
And then you were, and then what happened? You were harder.
I went harder.
You know what? You know what happened after that?
He
went harder. He went harder. And guess what happened? We all did. And that's why we are who we are. And we still managed to laugh through all this crap. But I do want to say that that billionaire had one of those unfortunate oligarch incidences where he is no longer above ground. And
again?
Yeah.
No,
not the window. No, a mystery.
No. This is a good one. He died an agonizing death in Moscow because of a rare brain condition that caused him to get sepsis in the brain.
After stealing $60 billion from the Russians, correct?
Yeah, he stole $60 billion from the State Bank of Russia.
Yeah.
So. And he worked with a bunch of people in Silicon Valley who just happened to be connected to the PayPal mafia.
Would that have been the biggest theft in the world if he pulled it off?
Probably, yeah. He was proud of it.
I mean, he did pull it off for a while.
There was he pulled it off until
he got an incredibly rare brain sepsis.
This is so
Put it this way, Jeff. After I started going after Sergey, there were a couple other people. It wasn't just me. There are people like
a $60 billion guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a Russian oligarch who's departed.
He tried fucking with me, or his people tried fucking with me, and
I
found
him a brain sepsis virus.
Well, I found the people that he was trying to hurt, and I made their stories known and got them attention.
He did.
And then Mother Jones wrote an article about him. And then he ended up selling his penthouse and fleeing back to Moscow after he sold his mansion to Harry and Meghan, of course.
Well, that's real estate in the 805 is limited. It's limited.
But wait, why was he? You've got $60 billion. Why did he try and hurt people?
That ain't your 60 billion, man. You get called up to do all kinds of things. You know what I mean?
He pistol.
All right,
it's another story. It's another story. I don't know the story.
You know what?
We'll tell it off air. How's that?
But it is a very interesting thing that this transnational mob is all linked. So much of it goes back to Silicon Valley. So much of the original money that financed the people that we thought, we're going to move fast and break things, but not democracy, ended up coming from, characters such as the dearly departed Sergei.
Good phrase. People we thought were going to move fast and break things, but not democracy.
Yeah, no, they're breaking our democracy. They're breaking our democracy.
We said like, oh, great, move fast and break things, and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. You really want that? Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go.
What would they?
It's just like the classic, like the devil gives you a wish or whatever, and you're like,
yeah,
no wishes.
You get your wish. Here we go. We're gonna break it.
Yeah.
What they forgot was I can move faster and break more.
So what happened was, though, we got together, and it is kind of funny because we always knew that what we were doing we thought was valuable because we each have our backgrounds and what we do, and then this lawfare that's been directed right now at Jim, I think is an indicator that we are being disruptive. We might not be moving fast, but we're steady, and we continue to interview the best minds we can find about our troubled times.
Well, what troubles me though is that yes, you're disruptive, but also, I mean, I think of the Flynn's of the world looking at like, all right, there goes the herd, right? Who can they pick off? And the fact that you don't have a media organization behind you, Jim, they're like, he doesn't have the resources. I think about this because the family kind of sent me a threatening letter when I first started teaching at Dartmouth. And I remember I was really freaked out, and I went to a friend of mine who was a First Amendment lawyer, and they're like, this is a nuisance lawsuit. And I'm like, oh, great, nuisance. That doesn't sound bad. I'm like, oh no, they're gonna just lead you to your dry because they know you don't have the sources. But I don't know why they backed off, but I wonder if it was that I had that institution of the college behind me suddenly.
Yes, sci-fi. You're killing me.
So I have some funds tied up in some things, but once they get out, I build a war chest.
We don't want to hear about your personal finances, really, seriously.
No, I build a war chest specifically because I felt there was a war coming.
There is a war coming. It's here.
Yeah. So there will be funds and finances. So,
but none of us are going to survive it.
My kids are going to survive it. I don't give a fuck.
This is going to be the rest of our lives. This fight, because
like we put ourselves up front, right? So like if it's up more, I mean, like Jim's already targeted, but we've all been targeted a little bit. But I do think that like what the long struggle is us thinking about kids and other people. Like I think the good news is we're going to get through fascism, but we're going to go through it, right? We're going to go, and not all of us make it. And if I had to guess, none of us will. But what we do, and I don't mean to sound like martyr and so on, because like I would like to get through it, but the work we do might help others get through it.
Damn straight. Yeah. The moment I press send on my first anti-Trump blog on September 17th of 2016, I knew that I was willing to die for my country, not because I wanted to, but because I'm German American and I knew what was happening to my country.
Oh, Jesus, I'm not willing to die. I will. I remember my first time I got arrested for civil disobedience, I was like, okay. The second time it was in the Iraq war, and in the little town where I was in Amherst, guy burned himself to death in protest, and all the students came out. I was a student. We all just filled the streets and so on. And I was already under like whatever for the first civil disobedience. I had some suspended, some shit, but I was like, I did end up getting beat up by a cop. I got arrested. It was a wonderful occasion because it ended up getting all 200 some of us off. But I just remember resolving at that point, I will never do civil disobedience again. I'm gonna run. Like I'm not.
I don't want to die. I'm a happy, joyful person. I have beautiful children. I love birds. I have this beautiful life, but I understood the seriousness of our problem. I did not underestimate the seriousness of our troubles.
I keep right. Authentically that we're trying to stay safe because we wouldn't be talking here.
Fascism is an end state, right? It is not a sustainable system over the long period of time, right? It is always
Indonesia since
with that
Indonesia for 40, 50 years.
Sure, and you can hold it up for decades on end, but it is an extreme state that most of the people in it do not benefit from, right? So it is at minimum very, very difficult to maintain for any period of time, right? So for me, we will get through it, right? Some people will get through it. They have to, because this thing is not going to swing and stay there, right? Like all swings of the pendulum, it has to come down. The question to me is, how much damage is it going to do? How hard is it going to swing? And how can we put pressure back on it to start bringing it back to normalcy again? Because it is really swung in a very, very
And one way we do it is we indict a motherfucker for espionage, and then we take a look at his Supreme Court. That's one way.
Perfect.
High five.
I'm going to take us out on some words from Mac Miller. You and me, we ain't that different. I struck the fuck out, and then I came back swinging.